Hi, it's Toronto immigration lawyer Max Chaudhary. I wanted to talk about a certain application for permanent residence known as the Humanitarian Compassionate Application. So I want to talk about some basics. So for example, one pertinent question is, who may file such an application? Or is there a certain kind of profile for people who file such an Hnc application? And perhaps in a general sense, this may be people who do not fit the more objective types of applicant criteria. What I mean is, for example, Canada Experience Class or Federal Skilled Worker or spousal sponsorship, where there is a set of objective criteria which you can review and then determine if you fit and then apply thereafter to one of those more objectively based systems. By contrast, humanitarian and compassionate applications are more open-ended in terms of the criteria. That being said, people who do not qualify for the other applications do not automatically want to file for a humanitarian and compassionate application. People who simply file an application because they do not fit the more objectively based set of application criteria would have a low chance of success under an Hnc application. Another factor to be assessed is the location of relatives affected by the person applying for the Hnc. For example, is a child or a spouse or other close relative of the person inside of Canada or outside of Canada? And how would they be affected by the person seeking the Hnc if they were to be unsuccessful and had to leave Canada? This affects the chances of success. A more basic question is, why file a humanitarian, compassionate, or Hnc application? One thing to keep in mind is that this is one of the less common applications that can be filed while the person is inside of Canada. Broadly speaking, an Hnc application is meant to fit those candidates who are suffering undue hardship and would unduly be hurt due to the inherent rigidity of the law in certain circumstances. Another question is, when can an Hnc application be filed if a person is inside of Canada? If a person is inside of Canada, one question would be posed, which is of relevance, is whether they've made a refugee claim. Generally speaking, there is a 1-year bar preventing a person from filing an Hnc application. 1 year from the date of the disposition of the refugee claim. The disposition may include times for when a person has filed a refugee appeal division, appeal, or a federal court application against a negative refugee or refugee appeal decision. The 1-year bar would prevent them from filing until 1 year has elapsed from the completion of one of these 3 events. Another pertinent question that people ask is, how long does an Hnc application take to be decided or disposed of by an immigration officer? This answer is quite variable and could be anywhere from 6 months to years. And given this circumstance, it's a good idea to file as soon as reasonably possible, keeping in mind any bar, but at the same time making sure that there is a foundation of success in terms of the personal circumstances of the person seeking the Hnc application for permanent residency. Another question is, what affects the chances of success for an Hnc application? There are numerous factors, but some include whether or not the person was in Canada working legally. Another factor relates to whether or not the person has close relatives in Canada who are affected by the person having to leave Canada. In some cases, the issue of whether a person would normally meet the criteria for a more straightforward application but did not meet it perhaps due to circumstances beyond their control is another factor which may lead to a stronger foundation for Hnc relief. Pertinent, relevant information would include whether there is a support network of close family or good friends in Canada which can help assure the person's economic establishment in Canada. Similarly, the issue of whether there are relatives who are outside of Canada and how they may be affected if you remain in Canada or if you have to return to your home country is a factor. Such things relate to whether you are providing support for them while you're inside of Canada, and similarly, what kind of support can they provide to you if you have to return to your ordinary country of residence. Another factor relates to the conditions of the country you hail from. Are the country conditions stable or unstable? And do they particularly affect you due to something unique about you, like your ethnicity or your religious affiliation, or any other kind of factor that is pertaining to your unique circumstances? Another basic question is, where is the candidate? What I've been speaking about typically in these past few minutes is circumstances when a person is inside of Canada. On the other hand, a person theoretically could file a humanitarian compassionate application when they are outside of Canada, but this is quite rare and subject to certain limitations. On the matter of relatives and where they are located, proof of where they are located, what they are doing, and any issues they are facing that relate to you being in Canada and not being in Canada would be highly relevant to produce for an Hnc application. In terms of how to file an Hnc application, these are typically paper applications, and they consist of the standard government forms, the government fee, and supporting evidence. The supporting evidence relates to third-party documents such as economic establishment documents, which may include proof of employment, proof of salary, proof of savings, assets, bank accounts, things of that nature. Standard documents include the police clearance and at some point perhaps a medical to be complied with, perhaps later when you're approved in principle. In some cases, upgrading of skills such as certificates or education acquired inside of Canada would be pertinent to produce. And broadly speaking, proof of hardship if the person seeking the Hnc application for permanent residency is forced to apply outside of Canada. For example, would there be harm to them or to loved ones if they have to leave Canada and resubmit the application in a more ordinary way? Inherent to this is proof of ties to Canada, such as with employers, family, friends, religious affiliations, etc. Depending on the individual circumstances, medical or psychological reports may be relevant to show the importance or the impact of the Hnc applicant to stay in Canada and how that may affect adversely people inside of Canada or relatives or friends outside of Canada. Once filed, it's a good idea to update the status of your situation in Canada by filing new documents related to new achievements inside of Canada, given the fact that the Hnc application may not be decided in a timely way. Also, it's a good idea to guide the immigration officer with all of the documents by having a submission letter, a cover letter if you will, and that cover letter should talk about similarly situated cases that were successful, which may include some cases at the federal court or the Immigration Appeal Division of the Immigration and Refugee Board. If you're in Canada and seeking advice on how to acquire permanent resident status, contact Chaudhry Law Office. Thank you.